mixing, pouring, turning, sanding, and buffing. It's going to be a real quick lesson. We may not get it buffed quite. The meeting's gone pretty long, and we're kind of getting on up there in time. But I'll go over the resin. There's many different resins out there. This is what I use. It's the artist resin, like $139, $149 per gallon. There's cheaper out there. So shop around. Amazon's got some right now, 2 gallons for $99.
Amazon?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Whenever people ask what kind of molds you use for pouring, to get your shaping, this isn't cottage cheese, but it's close. French onion dip container. It will release from that. However, if it doesn't release, always use a form that you can turn off with your tools. Plastic will turn, it's not always pretty, but it will come off. It will release. So keep that in mind.
Do you use a release agent?
I'm sorry?
Do you use a release agent that you spray in there?
You can. I don't, but you can. You can use silicone spray, but I don't like having that in the shop because with lacquer, if you're using lacquer very much, it creates fish eyes, contaminations. I mean, it does a little bit of everything. So, one of the main things you do with resin, get you some measuring cups and measure. Don't try to be a chemist and think you can outthink it, because it won't set up. If you put too much hardener in it, it's worse than not putting enough in it. So if you're going to short it on the hardener, the catalyst that goes in it. That does not make sense with anything I've ever thought of, but that's how it works. So if you're going to be a little shy, make it on the hardener. But spend a little money, get you some of these mixing cups, and you won't have a bad batch. Now, whenever I do pour into the mold, I've got a pressure pot that I use. You don't have to. If you're only doing about 1 inch of this, you could probably do a heat gun or one of those little butane torches, to pop the bubbles. But a pressure pot's better. That way you don't have any bubbles in it. And with resin, you don't want any bubbles, because that's a void. It's going to be a void, and when you go to turn it, that creates a problem. The dyes that I like to use is Alumite. Let me pass this around. It's 1 drop will give you so much color. I mean, it's very, very concentrated. They're higher than some of the others, but you get your money's worth. I'm telling you what I'm doing or how I do things. You guys may have a different way to do it, but try to be safe with it. I mean, it's just resin will get you. I mean, it can. But what I found, and I've not had any catches since I started using carbide negative rate cutters. I've got the tool set up with that, and if I have anything with resin in it, even like a rolling pin with a Celtic knot, something like that, this is what I use. Because you hang it with a regular chisel, and it's chance of a piece of it blowing out, and then you ruin it. So always think negative rate carbide, and you won't have any problem. Now, with me saying that, I'll probably blow this up here in a minute, but for the most part, you just won't have any problem. I've got a tool here that I cannot explain to you how it works, but you can look at it, and this will not hang up in epoxy. I don't know why, but it works. I can go in, I can cut a mortise with it if I want, but you take a normal turning tool and you're probably gonna hang in there. But dumb luck, you know what to say, a blind squirrel finds an acorn once in a while. I got mine here. What we're going to do today, we're going to turn a lid. This is a combination of 2 pours. The first pour, just go about 1 inch in your mold, let it cure, and then you can take a mixing cup if you want, so you can put a tenon on it. It's hard to chuck that up without a tenon, or without a mortise. So you can cut out the bottom of the cup, set that down in there, hot glue it. I use hot glue on everything, whether it's plastic or wood. I've got here's one here. this, I had part of a rolling pin that was left over, so I just used forcer bit, drilled down in there, hot glued this to the resin blank, and that will give me this when I'm finished. But there's one thing on this, let me pass it around. If you'll look, I'll pass both of them. If you'll look in this one, it's got some colored texture in it. And Dennis, several years ago, he was doing some pictures in wood with a resin dome on it. You remember those, Dennis? It'd be flat, but it magnifies it because it's concave. And that's what this is. I used cold chucks on this before I did this part of it, before I put the tenon on, and I colored it. And whenever I positioned this over top, the cup over top of it, I filled it. And whenever I turned, I was able to leave this texture in there with the blue color, or blue color. Well, blue and yellow makes green. So it depends on how the light's catching that. Color goes through it pretty good. So, and that's finished with lacquer also. Not on the inside. I use resin on the inside. You can pour a little resin in there, turn it, work it, let it all settle at the bottom. Just be careful how much you put in there, because it kind of takes away from it a little bit. But
So you put resin inside of that cup and turn it?
no. I put resin inside the bowl, the lidded box there.
Oh, the lid itself?
Yeah,
Okay.
no, the box itself, not the lid.
The bottom?
Yeah, the
Yeah,
inside.
inside.
Yeah, the inside.
Inside that.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. You put, I call them the bowl, but you put it down the bowl and.
Yeah, you just kind of rock it around, let it run up to the brim.
Yeah.
Be careful, try not to let it run over, and just work it. And if you may have to put 2 or 3, you may end up with half an ounce in there, or but it ends up looking pretty nice. I mean, it's not perfect by any stretch, but it looks pretty good for the inside of a bowl. I guess what we're going to do. Oh, also, if somebody wants to do some resin turning, I've got 2 blanks here. You can have, try it. It's easier to try it than it is to buy it. So it's, but there's 2 of them here. Just you're welcome to those. And that's the tenon I put on this. It should chuck up. If I've got this Nova 3, I think G3, and I don't know what millimeter jaws it is, but it chucks up. Does a good job. So you're welcome to that. We're gonna turn the bottom of this to start with. I'm going to turn this, and then I'm going to sand it. Then we're going to buff the bottom. Then we're going to flip it over and chuck it back up and work on the design on the outside. Everybody good with that? I usually start out with a round circular negative rake, and we'll just see where we're at, get this thing squared up. There's one other thing when you're turning for a box, turn your lid first, because when you sand it, there's a good chance it's going to get smaller. For sure it's going to get smaller. So if you have your box turned, you think you've got this, by the time you sand the butt, it may be too much slop in it. So I recommend turning your lid first and work your box toward the lid. You can put the shape, if you know what kind of shape you're wanting to do, like if that bowl just passed around or box just passed around, you can continue to design up the side into this. You can get pretty close to the eyeball. So. And if you're going to sand these, start with a coarse grit, an 80 grit. These tools can put little grooves and just round, and you don't get pulled just perfect. There's a chance little grooves that go in there. So resin is there's a lot of work for resin. It's not the most user-friendly thing in the world. But I start with 80, 120, somewhere around there. I'm going to go ahead and sand this and work through the grits from 80 to 4,000. It won't take very long to do it, I don't think. And then we'll chuck it up, we'll take it out, and we'll chuck it. This is boring mode. I started 120 and this is 150. Pretty much the same process you use for turning wood, it's just a little different wood.
You have a red thing?
I do a bunch, yeah. Not until I get to the finer grit though. It's tempting to pass some grits up, but don't. But just go ahead and whatever grits you have, graduate up to finer, just go ahead and use it. With 120 to 150 to whatever, just graduate up to high as you go. Another thing too, if you like finishing lacquer, you can spray lacquer over resin and it bonds very well. Lacquer is easier to buff than resin is. So you can kind of play with it like that.
You have to really bucket, you use your lacquer and make your bucket.
No, I don't buff in with lacquer and resin.
Oh, you don't bucket at all.
No, I buff after the last coat of lacquer. Is that what you meant?
Yeah.
Yeah, I buff in, but I don't buff in between coats.
No, I mean, when you got the last coat on, you have trouble bucking through the lacquer.
No, not, and that's where you ask how many coats of lacquer do you put on. I can't tell you that. That's a feel you just develop through the years. And I was in the body shop business, and I started out spraying lacquer. I sprayed thousands of gallons of lacquer, and it's second nature to me for me stand here and say that, 10 coats, sand it, 10 coats, sand it. You never know the viscosity that you're putting on or the amount of paint you're putting on. So it's a guessing game. If you sand through, you're okay if you don't have 10 clear. If you have 10 clear and you sand through, then you really got problems. You've got to go back, pretty much start over. So, and where you're going to sand through is always going to be on the edge, because you can't spray onto an edge and make it build up. It's just not going to do it. And that's what it was. You buffing a hood and fenders on a car. If you didn't have that hood popped up a little bit, you go buff the hood, you're probably going to burn all the paint off the edge of the fenders. I've done that.
You ever knock it back before up to the wall?
Do what?
Okay, like, you're up there with Cadillac. I'll knock it back when I'm done, it's like.
Oh, cut the shine?
I'll knock it back before I fill the wall. And give it a bucket, give it a bucket.
No, I've never had done that. It sounds a lot better.
And it might be because we have the clear conditions and I'm doing it with them. Might get a little bit of a little partial here and there.
Oh, well, you'll get that.
Hand over to fill it, but if you knock it back before I fill the wall, you don't fill it.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see where that would work like that for a while. But whenever you go to buff lacquer, sort of terminology that's just terminology I've used for years called putter sand.
and you're sanding your clear before you buff. And so when you're sanding your clear, if you got any dirt in it like you're talking about, you can take and use a paint stick, wrap paper around it, it's flat, and you knock them out. Or, you know, just about anything as long as it's flat, depending on what you're sanding on. If you got a box that you're putting clear on, you get some dirt on it, of course you can't use a stick on that, you just have to pay attention to what you're doing when you're sanding to get it all out. You don't always get them all out. People, for the most part, unless it's car, they don't fix stuff quite that way. Car, the finish had to be better on it whenever they picked it up than it was when it was from the factory. I mean, it was just, people were funny about cars, you know. But with lacquers, we can do that at the open house, and you'll see how easy it is. It's not complicated at all. It's not hard. But if you've never had anybody show you, then it's a mystery. There's a good chance we'll have some scratches left on this because I'm trying to rush through it. But you'll get the gist of it. 400. And the other will go pretty fast. It's just maybe. But I go 400, 600, and then up to, I'll probably go 1,500 from there, which you shouldn't, but I'm going to. Do as I say, not as I do. Whenever we clean up today, I've got a liner in the garbage can over here from Mr. Duncan's garbage. We need to put that in the liner, and I'll just carry it out because this may create an issue for him trying to dispose of it with resin in it. That's right too bad.
Whenever you buy, this is micro mesh sandpaper. It goes from 1,500 to 12,000. They give you a little color card for you to check the backing on and compare it to the card. That doesn't really work. So take you a Mark's Lot, Sharpie, something, and write on it. That way you're not guessing what it is. It's just that much easier. Wet your sandpaper, micro mesh, a little bit on this. And whenever you're through sanding, if you go up through all the grits, there's a good chance that, I mean, you'll think, well, it doesn't need to be buffed, but it does.
That's 15, that's 18. If you skip from 600 to 15, like that, spend a little extra time with the 15. You skip from 600 to that. After they cut out some of the 600 scratches.
I hope that will check up with that. We're going to buff the bottom of this a little bit. It won't take but a minute. You can do, if you want, you can do this on the lathe. But what'll happen whenever you buff the lathe, your towel, if you use a micro cloth or almost anything that's got any textured other than just super soft cotton materials like t-shirts or something, whenever it turns, you're probably gonna put some little grooves in it. It'll heat up enough to put a few grooves in it. So if you want to eliminate that, you almost have to use one of these type buffers. Roger, I don't know if I want to sit there or not. You're in line of fire. Whenever you turn this and you introduce this to your buffer, you be dang careful and hang on to it. It can end up, Roger, you can't run far enough where it can't hit you. But you have to hang on to it. And if you introduce it too high, it's going to grab it like that and fling it up. So come up to it, but don't let it catch edge. You know, just like go back to buffing on a car. You catch edge, something's going to happen, and usually it's not good. This compound I'm using here, this is McGuire's Fine Cut Cleaner #2. You can get that at Harbor Freight. They've gone up on it, it's outrageously high anymore, but it really doesn't take very much. You can also use this white diamond on, like, and I'll do that. And whole thing is gonna fly hard. And you have to put a little bit of pressure there. You want that friction and the heat to build up to polish. But you can see it go from 80 grit to that. I mean, it's there. You can turn it into glass. You take the 80, if you sand enough, you can get the shine and the gloss, the texture, any part of it you want with sandpaper and buffing. So we're going to call this good enough, and we'll chuck it up and we'll start turning the shape of the lid. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. So I have to cut that a little bit deeper. It's not much wood. Busted enough, and sanded enough. Not going to play well with that. So we're going to take about a minute to make these up. We'll leave the bottom the way it is, and we cut a little bit more groove in it. On this, I'll use detail negative right. See if we can't cut that a little deeper so y'all light into it. Light into it. Everything flies. It is,
but you turn the screw now. You turn it was wobbling before, but once you cut the tenon in there, then you go back to the outside, and then you screw everything up. So, but yeah, it is wobbling. And that's another reason why I said turn your lid first, and that way you plane your wood instead of that resin. Because wood's easier to correct. You know, if you get this too small, then I said something earlier about using hot glue whenever you're doing for your tenon with the cup. Make sure you get that glue really good around there, because if you pour the resin in there and it starts leaking, you got a mess. You can't chase it with hot glue and get it sealed up. So make sure everything's sealed before you ever start pouring the second pour. It's about 3 inches taller than what I need for 4 inches taller. Okay. And like I said, always think safety.
Yeah, you thought about it.
Well, I brought it, so I had to think about it.
What speed do you turn it at, Resin?
Right now, 1300, 1360. On mine, I got a Laguna lathe, and I am not used to anything on this, so I would probably turn it faster. Maybe. I know that sounds silly, but I don't want to blow up everybody. I'm taking my time, you know? You can get these down fairly small. I'm going to try these smaller than what this is. I'm not for a little penny. I don't plan on leaving it on there, but it's kind of good to know that you can get it turned down pretty good without breaking off. These negative brake carbides, you can push and pull, doesn't make much difference. It's not going to grab either way.
Sharpen your tips?
No, I didn't have any luck trying to do that. And with negative brake, it's really hard to. Yeah. It gives you an opportunity also to put a little decoration in or a little color twist. You know. If you want to vein your resin, let it dry cure for about an hour. Then you put a couple drops of the resin dye in there, and you take a pen or something, just work it around in there. But you gotta let it dry a little bit, because otherwise it's
Yeah. I didn't know we lived with this.
like what?
I didn't know we lived with this.
Where you buy your easy wood too?
You can get them just about anywhere. You can get them on Amazon, you can get them at Woodcraft, you can get them at Rockler. Everybody sells them, but some of these I just made. You know, they're homemade. On ones, it'd be hard to homemade would be the detail. So I don't have the equipment to do it, it's hard to not. It would take a pretty good piece of equipment to make it.
Does anybody want to look at this before I start buffing on it so you get an idea how fine it is? It's
Hold it down a little bit, so it's in the camera. Look at the wall.
I can't. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. Now we'll buff it. Is that okay? All right. Put it back in the chuck, turn a little bit more, but we won't do that. This stuff will burn your eyes if it gets in it. This is product X. Can't buy it anymore. That's whenever I had body shop, J&J products came around for the detail part of the shop, and they sold product X. So what you see, this is not what's in there. It's not Perfected 3, but Perfected 3 will do the same thing. It's just 5 times higher. So. make this like a real piece of glass, you'd have to spend another 30 minutes on the problem. I know we're out of time, I'm sure. So that's, I'm gonna pass it around. If you have any questions, that just ask. Yeah, that's it. That's all.
Thank you, Randy.
Now, what you can, if you'll look, by doing a 2-pour, this, if the light's right, should probably reflect up through that and maybe into the knob, maybe not on this one. Because I put the lot of dye in this, not meaning to. But right now, you could probably see where I had to go back in and cut that ridge. So it's probably, hold it up to light, you can tell that quite a bit, but that's it.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
You wanna look at?
Okay, we'll see you guys in September.
Well, that sounds long. That's it. That's all I got.